Tables and seats are now on sale for the biggest night in the digital video calendar, the TellyCast Digital Video Awards. We're celebrating excellence in the only awards ceremony created especially for the social video industry, with over 100 channels, shows and series shortlisted across 27 categories. It all takes place on the evening of 5th of June during South by Southwest London Week at the luxurious Londoner Hotel in Leicester Square. The guest list reads like the who's who in the next generation of entertainment. So book your table, half table or seat now and join the talent and executives shaping the content industry of tomorrow. Just visit digitalvideoawards.co.uk to secure your place now. The TellyCast Digital Video Awards, the biggest night in the digital video calendar. We'll see you there.
TellyCast.
Hi, I'm Justin Crosby, and welcome to another TellyCast. On this week's show, we're going back to the TellyCast Digital Content Forum from May and playing out the first session of the day in full, where the UK's three major broadcasters involved in the brand-funded entertainment space share the projects they're currently working on and what they're planning for the future. The show was recorded at 180 Strand as part of the TellyCast Digital Content Forum at Advertising Week Europe. I hope you enjoy the show. Okay, so let's kick off with the panel. And we're kicking off in style with our very first session, What Broadcasters Want, where we have three senior execs at the main three UK broadcasters who are active in the sector. So let's meet our panel. Bhav Chandrani, Director of B Studios at ITV, Claire Speirs, Branded Content Controller at Sky Media, and Adam Middleton, Senior Creative Strategist at Channel 4. By the way, we're taking questions via Slido. You can access that through the Advertising Week Europe app. So please do get your questions in. I'll try and make some time for those at the end, or maybe dot them throughout the discussion as we go forward. Okay, let's get started. Bhav, first of all, tell us about your role at ITV.
Sure. Hi, everyone. And just quickly, the podcast that Justin does is brilliant. So do give that a download, give it another plug. So yes, I'm Bhav. I work at ITV. I work in the commercial team. My title is Director of B Studio. What that means is I look after kind of all non-standard or more creative forms of advertising. So sponsorship, licensing, product placement, social monetization, and of course, ad-funded programming.
Right. Thanks. Claire. Hi, Claire.
Hi, I'm Claire Speirs. I'm Branded Content Controller at Sky Media. I've been at Sky for 7-8 years now. Recently just moved into this role, actually, having worked in creative partnerships more broadly. But going forwards, my role is all about taking proactive opportunities out to market. So working closely with commissioning and external production teams to identify AFPs and proactive branded content ops.
Okay. Adam.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, Adam, work at Channel 4 as Senior Creative Strategist. Bit of a bridge between the sales team within Channel 4 and our commissioning team. So really there to kind of like solve those incoming briefs that we get from our advertisers and work out how brand entertainment can really be a solution for that. And a big part of our kind of evolution has been, focusing on digital channels, on social channels as well. So we'll talk a little bit about that today. So that's my role at Channel 4.
All right. And that's something that we're going to come back to, is sort of that balance and that bridge between commissioning and sales as well, because that's obviously a crucial area within brand-funded programs. So let's bring us up to speed in terms of the history, a potted history, and we're going to do that with each of the panelists, how you've been involved in brand-funded programming up to this point.
Sure. And potted history is exactly the right phrase, really. It's something we've lent into, stepped back from over a number of years. So we had a big push into ad-funded programming quite a number of years ago, that's 16, 17. And we had a modicum of success at the time. But the business kind of, that point, felt that it wasn't something that was a key driver and it wasn't necessarily a sustainable thing for the company. So we stepped away from it. And for a period of about 12 years from then until relatively recently, it was something that kind of happened a little bit by accident without any real kind of thought or precision or strategy behind it. So we do the odd travel ad fund per year kind of thing. And that was it. And then about 6 years ago, I'd say, we got a specific brief through from a client, which was Dunelm. And we worked together with Dunelm and one of the ITV Studios production labels, Multi-Story, to turn that from brief into a show called Back to Mine, which was really successful for them. We had 2 series of that. And that kind of opened up our thinking again around ad funds. Not long after that, we had the brief from Marks and Spencer's, who at the time was sponsoring Britain's Got Talent and doing this campaign called Fresh Market Updates. So one for kind of scale and celebrity and reach, and the other one for kind of telling a product story. And they came to us and said, how do we bring those 2 worlds together? How can we create, is there something that delivers the scale and the celebrity, but is more rooted in our core business of food? And we didn't have a show that was right for that. So we worked with another one of ITV's labels, South Shore, to come up with Cooking with the Stars. And this year will be the 4th series of Cooking with the Stars. So I don't want to make too bold a claim, but it might be one of the most successful ad funds to have run on British television. It's our kind of the first hour-long peak recommissioned series, certainly format that we've had on ITV. And so that's kind of brought us up to this year. And in the last couple of years, there's been a growing emphasis on ad funds.
Okay, and we'll talk about the creation of B Studios as part of that a little bit later on. And we also have a session later on where we have Marks and Spencer's and South Shore. They're going to be telling us a little bit more about that in that session. Claire, how about you? Tell us about the history of brand-funded programming at Sky.
So I think at Sky, the focus is, or the opportunities in the past and now actually are more focused around arts and culture and sport. We do a lot of branded content, particularly across social and digital, less so on linear, if I'm honest. But Sky Arts is definitely this sort of opportunity for us and has been. So some examples in the past are Lexus, the Big Design Challenge, which was an AFP a couple of years ago, and then more recently, My Greatest Shot with Adobe, again, Sky Arts, 6-part series. And Sky Sports, we do quite a lot of work with them across social as well. So there's something called Boots Doctor, which is live at the moment. So it's pretty much focused on those 2 genres, if I'm honest. But there are examples of where we've worked with sponsors on some of our bigger channels like Atlantic and Volvo, where as part of that sponsorship package, we've extended that to creating branded content with that brand as well. So stuff like kind of behind the scenes or filming some of Atlantic's biggest shows, looking at branded content featuring stuntmen with Volvo. So certainly when we're working with some of those big long-term sponsors, that's where there are some opportunities as well. And that's what we've seen in the past. But yeah, it's very much working towards supporting the editorial agenda really for each of those channels and platforms. Being a pay TV provider, there's a quality threshold, and so that's why I have to work really closely with commissioning to make sure that whatever we're looking at, whatever we're talking about, really fits with that editorial mission. And Sky Arts are very open to that.
And can you give us an idea per year how many hours of brand-funded programming you produce?
I would say for us, it's less about hours and more about just meeting that quality threshold. So we're probably not doing that much on linear, but when the right opportunity comes up and commissioner on board and editorial on board, that's when we can really dig into it. But I would say it's less about hours for us and the commission team.
Okay. And Adam, multi-platform is important for you as well, isn't it? So again, bring us up to speed.
If you see me pause, by the way, it's not because I forgot what I was saying. I'm doing the Squid Game thing. I think like Channel 4's like heritage in brand entertainment is like super rich. It's, been going on for many years. It really has evolved over time as well. So, it still does happen where we take up proactive opportunities to find advertisers who want to kind of work on those commissions. And at the same time, we now do a lot of reactive work as well to briefs. Trying to find the right solutions across multiple platforms. So, with Channel 4's kind of remit and heritage in kind of creating purpose-led content, there's been some amazing shows, even recently around, we commissioned a brilliant linear AFP with Marks and Spencer. They're going to get loads of plugs today, aren't they? Marks and Spencer's around New Model Agency, which is a super kind of diverse show, worth checking out, all the way to so that's the kind of like long form stuff that's like commercial hour length on linear. There's then like mid form content that we put out on like YouTube and Facebook, etc. And some stuff we've done there recently around like Maltesers, for example, around maternal mental health. We commissioned an amazing series called Late Night Feed, which is all around kind of return to work for working mums. And then some really short form stuff as well. Like we've just done a campaign with Remington around the kind of power of hair and your identity there. And that's literally 60-second assets that are living across the likes of TikTok and Instagram. So the kind of like, real range of brand entertainment that's coming out of Channel 4 now is really vast. And then like more on the entertainment side of things as well. There's shows like with eBay, for example, called Bangers, hosted by Tiny Temper, which is a brilliant, again, linear AFP that exists on streaming as well. And then we move on again into the mid-form space, a recent series we commissioned with Tourism Ireland called Stand Up Road Trip, which is about comedians basically touring the country and ending up doing a stand-up gig at the end to get some inspiration. And I kid you not, we even made a format, one-off special with Domino's around a man that likes to get treated like a pizza. So that is much funner for me to explain to you after a few drinks later. So come and grab me then. But yeah, I think like the range of content that we're putting out at Channel 4 is just really vast now. And, we're not slowing down this space at all. It's we do feel like it's a really exciting opportunity and a space we're constantly looking to evolve in, like in the kind of cross-platform space. So yeah.
And presumably the metrics that digital can provide is something that's more and more important for brands.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, the depths that you can go into with the platforms in terms of like data audiences, understanding things like watch times, for example, and also like different metrics are coming up from our advertisers now as well around engagement. Things like fame is still really important, and we know the power of linear TV in delivering that fame as well. And, and even as Claire and Bhav have both touched on as well, like bringing the opportunities closer to our existing programming and our talent as well is also really key. So the metrics are constantly shifting, but digital really has opened up an opportunity for us to kind of evolve the way that we can service our advertisers and kind of hit those objectives. So, yeah.
Okay. So, Bhav, coming back to you, B Studios, 6 months ago, did you launch that? Maybe a bit more? Yeah. So tell us a little bit about the rationale for launching that and what difference it makes for working with agencies and brands and production companies from a brand-funded programming perspective.
Sure. So B Studio, we launched it in November of last year. If I'm using grandiose language, I refer to it as a evolution masquerading as a revolution. But it's basically a rebrand of our department with some stretch built into it. So it's basically the way we've done creative partnerships has evolved so much over the last 12 years. The number of touch points that a brand can access, the amount of extension content, a bit like you described for Volvo, that we produce for brands, the way we're able to integrate products into our shows, again, thinking audience first, idea first, creative first lens. The way we're able to do all of that shifted enormously, but we haven't really re-articulated the way we do partnerships to our customers. So part of the launch of B Studio was about re-articulating what we already do. But the two new areas, and again, they're not entirely new because we just talked about the history of ad-funded programming, but it signifies a shift in emphasis from us about what our focus is going forward. Those two new areas are social first entertainment or digital first entertainment. We can't make our minds up on which word to use there. So that is short form mainly, but there's variety in that. So it's everything from Argos showing how a scene is built or a set is built and kind of lifting the lid for fans to see how the furniture moves around to accommodate cameras, that kind of content, through to the Love Island, the morning after podcast. So that's a piece of branded entertainment. It wouldn't exist without the brand's funding. So that's the social first end, and we just want to do more of that. And then at the long form end, and for us, it is linear driven currently, we've basically opened the doors to ad funded programming. So while, as I explained earlier, in the history of ad funds up until 2023, it's something that has happened, has been an increasing focus. We've not actively said either to advertisers or to producers or to our commissioners or to media agencies that our doors are genuinely open to ad funded programming. And so just that shift in language, that openness, that kind of welcoming of briefs, and internally actually unlocking a lot of maybe false perceptions around ad-funded. We're calling them ad-funded entertainment rather than ad-funded programming, which might seem like a slightly petty thing to pick on, but it's really important for us because it's helping us tell a story to our commissioners that the entertainment value of the show always comes first, and it's helping us tell that story to advertisers as well, that they should always think about how the show comes across, not just how their brand comes across within that.
Want to get ahead in digital-first content? The Drop is the go-to newsletter for industry professionals, delivering insider news, trends, and insights straight to your inbox. Navigate the fast-changing landscape of digital-first production, distribution, and monetization. Sign up now for free at dropmedia.co.uk and stay informed with The Drop.
Okay, and that's interesting when you talk about the focus on entertainment first and potentially commissioner first, and we'll come back and pick on that in a second. Adam, you mentioned digital first, obviously, is the main focus for you. Can you just expand on that a little bit? You give us a few examples, and obviously metrics are very important for your clients. But how does it work in practice when you get a brief, and how is that benefiting your clients?
Yeah, absolutely. I think Bhav touched on a really important point there, actually, like dropping that kind of quite outdated term of like programming is actually a really interesting way to look at it. And I think, a big part of Channel 4's, strategy moving forward is to be digital first. It's a, really key focus area for the broadcaster at the moment. And I think like dropping that kind of programming side of things, actually focusing more on the content itself, the creative itself, and actually what that creative is there to actually service and do for our advertisers is really important. And this is why digital plays, such an important role. So yeah, to answer your question, Justin, I think one of the main things that, we really focus on is instead of matching up, which again, we probably will come on to in a bit, instead of matching up, programs that our production companies, our commissioners want to make with advertisers, it really is now trying to think about the advertisers we're working with and we're being tasked to kind of solve objectives for and our viewers first. And that then ends up in a position where we focus on the entertainment, the content, the creative first, not this kind of like programming model almost. So that's kind of really been a real shift for us. And I think, the way that we essentially deliver branded ents now is really kind of focusing on that brief first and foremost. So we do a lot of proactive opportunities out there in market, but our real bread and butter is kind of taking on those objectives from brands, understanding what those kind of key KPIs are and working out within the Channel 4 ecosystem, so linear, streaming and social, how can our entertainment, our branded ents service each of those objectives? What part of our ecosystem can best deliver on those objectives? So if there is an ask about fame, for example, we know our linear TV offering can do an amazing job at that because we can get close, albeit contextually sometimes, to our existing programming, and that does an amazing job to drive that fame. But if they're after awareness or consideration or changing that brand perception, we know we've got an amazing opportunity to tap into our social channels, YouTube and streaming as well, and digital, to really expand on that kind of like brand message, really create something truly entertaining that's going to pull an audience in. So we really focus on the kind of core ask to the brief first and then deliver a kind of digital first approach to that versus like matching up something to a brief. So yeah.
Okay. Claire, let's talk about Sky and the genres that you tend to work in within brand-funded entertainment. Can you just expand on that a little bit, and how else can brands work with Sky? Because it's not just programming, essentially. There are other ways that you can partner.
Yeah, and I think the guys have touched on that as well. So as I've said, Sky Arts is quite open to branded content. And part of that reason is because their sort of mission is to bring more arts to more people. So really diversifying and democratizing arts and culture. It's a free-to-air channel, so it's really about just bringing more arts to a broader group of people. So they're much more open. And the examples that I've given of, I guess, more traditional linear AFPs have sat on that channel. So that's an interesting one. But then I guess another space that we're just beginning to move into in Sky Media is what we're describing as official partner opportunities. And an example I'd give for that is Audi. And this is a very long-term partnership beginning sort of 3 years ago, where they became official innovation partner of Sky Sports. And what that meant was they were investing in innovation across Sky Sports broadcast coverage. So working really closely with their editorial teams to identify what are the big innovations that we can add to that coverage that really improve the viewer experience. And two big projects that we've worked on and launched are with cricket, the 100 in cricket, the power meter. So a camera set up that enables us to tell viewers the speed and the angle that a ball is leaving a cricket bat. I have to say that is not of interest to me, but to cricket viewers, that is really cool. And then the same with golf. We've got the performance zone, and they've paid to kind of create that zone and allow our pundits to analyse the swing and the gait of professional players through avatars and then share that with the amateur players at home. So that's just an example of how a brand can not necessarily create a fully kind of closed piece themselves, but they can really add something that we're already doing that viewers enjoy. So I think from a customer perspective, that's really enhancing their experience. And again, like I said, as a pay TV brand, that's really important for us, and it's really important for our customers to kind of keep reminding them why they're paying that fee every month, so that really helps. So I think, that's one example of a sort of different approach from us.
Okay, so let's look at taking a step back and looking at the wider content industry and TV industry. We've seen a huge slowdown in commissioning over the past 12 months. And I guess a lot of producers in the audience will want to know, is there the potential for the amount of brand-funded entertainment that broadcasters are going to commission? Is that going to increase, to fill that gap? I mean, Bhav?
Yeah. So we've already shown a significant growth in this area. So last year we did 3 series, which I think was about 16 hours of ad-funded programming. And this year we've got 13 commissioned, which equates to almost 100 hours of programming. So you can see the direction of travel there. So the short answer is yes, we see this as an important growth area, both in terms of advertiser demand and commissioner interest. And that's why we set up eStudio, to try and capitalize on that.
Okay. Claire?
I think one of the things we're seeing in our business is there's a bigger focus on trying to work with brands to create either shoulder content or some sort of partnership around shows that we've already commissioned. So it's not necessarily a big push to kind of fill extra hours per se, but we're looking at shows that are coming up this year and saying, actually, can a brand really help us increase our reach or drive more engagement? So stuff like the Day of the Jackal that's coming up later this year featuring Eddie Redmayne. We're looking at, are there opportunities for a brand to get involved in some sort of partnership there? And similarly with shows on Sky Max that are kind of returning series, stuff like Brassic and Buzzcocks, are there opportunities to work with brands to bring those program brands to life across different platforms and different areas? So it's not necessarily just about sort of creating lots more content, as you say, fill a gap. It's about working more with brands to enhance stuff that we're already doing as well. So that's a focus for us.
Okay. And Adam?
Yeah, I think the growth is, it's why we're here chatting about it today, right? I don't think the growth is going to slow down at all. I think if anything, the change is literally going to be not going to come from less content. It's going to be about just like the types of content that we're delivering. Claire touched on there, like shoulder content is an amazing opportunity and an example of that. And I think like the evolution of like what branded entertainment actually looks like is really important just to keep an eye on as well. So like the producers we're working with, and apologies, Justin, if it's going to be one of your questions in a bit, but like we're constantly challenging our producers to think more digitally about how they can produce content as well, like kind of take off the shackles almost of the kind of very linear structured way of like creating programming and entertainment, and actually think about the entire kind of like ecosystem of how viewers, consumers, whatever we want to call them in this industry, are actually like watching stuff basically. And, and if that is a TikTok video where they're stitching their face alongside it, then so be it. Or if it's like that real kind of lean back appointment to watch viewing, then that's, the other end of the spectrum. So I think it's less about kind of like the growth and slowdown, because I don't think that's going to happen. I think like we will continue to see this kind of steady push if the appetite continues, and if broadcasters like us and other partners can continue to evolve in this space. But it's about how the production teams we're working with internally and externally can continue to evolve their offering and adapt to how viewer habits are changing. Again, that's, such a core part of the Channel 4 vision moving forward, is like, how do we constantly evolve and service our audience in the way they're changing, the way they are consuming our content? So, yeah.
We've got a question that's come through on Slido, and it's related to my final question. We've only got 2.5 minutes left, but so if you could keep your answers nice and brief, please. How can production companies work with you to develop ideas for your latest brand briefs? Bhav?
Sure. So Adam has mentioned this. So we have 2 approaches to market, proactive and reactive. Proactive is the opportunity for producers, really, and that's via our commissioners. So go and speak to commissioners, pitch ideas to your commissioners in the normal way that you would, and then they will identify whether it needs to be ad funded or whether they can commission it straight. And if it needs to be ad funded, then it comes into me and my team to have a look at.
Okay. So in terms of the do's and don'ts, for a producer, it's not necessarily about going and finding a brand to attach to a project. Is that that's a don't?
That's a don't really for us. We want to own the conversation with brands. It's really important to our sales team to have that. And this is an increased part of their offering to customers. So we very much suggest producers don't do that, but they do come and speak to us at the earliest opportunity.
Okay. How about Sky?
Kind of similar, I guess. So ideally, certainly for the proactive stuff, it's great if a production company's already got a relationship with their commissioning team, either having worked with them or have treatments approved in principle. That just makes it so much easier for us. But I think to that question around actual briefs, which I guess is reactive, if we don't have anything that's already approved in principle that is appropriate, and we think that brief fits with our agenda or editorial's agenda, we'll go and have a chat with commission and say, look, this brief's come in. Are there production companies you think you would work with on this? Who are they? What's the kind of thing you would like to see from them in response to this brief? So we'd certainly be taking it to commissioning as a brief and saying, who are the companies you think are right to work on this?
Okay, so for Sky, it's that producers have got to get close to the commissioners.
I would say so, yeah.
Okay. And finally, Adam.
Yeah, the clock's red down here, so I'm going to be as quick as I can. I think the guys have touched on some really important points. I'm going to answer this question in a slightly different way, actually, and actually put the attention more on agencies, because I don't think agencies get probably enough love in the industry, to be honest with you. And the way that we're working with them is constantly evolving, and I'll comment on that in a sec. And also, like, the internal teams within Channel 4 are really evolving as well. And what I mean by that is our commissioning teams and our sales teams that we're working with. Production companies pitching us ideas absolutely is a way that we can work. And again, we can match them up to the advertisers. We can help shape them. And then to Bhav's point, we can decide if they should be ad funded. And then we can go down that road. The other side of it is actually working really closely with our agency partners and our digital commissioners internally. And, my role as a creative strategist, I've got a team I work with as well. We're developing a lot of ideas internally here and with our agency partners. In fact, quite a lot of briefs that we're answering now come with these thought starters, and we're not anti that at all. And I think, the answer to this question of how production companies can work with us, I think it's been flexible to work with us in that way, basically. So rather than having this set structured idea of what you want to make as a production company, try and be a bit more flexible as to the thoughts that are coming from both broadcasters and our agency partners, because, there is some absolute gold out there, and no one really knows our advertisers better than, the broadcasters and the media agencies we're working with. So I think just being open, flexible. I touched on earlier about evolving and adapting to the wider ecosystem as well. A lot of production companies out there are still quite linear focused, and we are working with them a lot at the moment at Channel 4 to evolve their offering. What does a TikTok asset look like compared to an commercial hour on linear? Unsurprisingly, it's very bloody different. So I think just being able to evolve and be flexible is really key. So yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen, please thank our panel. You will be able to listen back to this panel discussion and lots of other panel discussions via our podcast as well. And you'll also see lots of interviews with lots of our panelists on our YouTube channel in the coming weeks. So thank you very much, and see you for the next session. Well, that's about it for this week's show. I hope you enjoyed it. TellyCast was produced by Spirit Studios and recorded at 180 Strand in London. For videos featuring the movers and shakers of the TV and digital content industries, don't forget to subscribe to TellyCast. Just hit the link in the episode description or search TellyCast TV on YouTube. We'll see you next week for another show. Until then, stay safe